Why don't you introduce yourself?
My name is Annabelle Toll. I am an anthropology and history major at UC Denver, and I have always had an interest in the Norse culture.
Why don't you tell me about Viking Funeral? Like, what goes into that, and what are some special things about it that we don't know?
So Viking funerals are most commonly thought of as putting a deceased person into a boat and lighting the boat on fire, but that's one of the 4 forms of a Viking funeral. There are 3 others. Each was used to ensure that the dead would go to the afterlife in Valhalla and not return to haunt the living. The other 3 forms of a Viking funeral are being buried underground in a boat made of either wood or stone, most commonly wood, being burned on a pyre, or being sent down a river or body of water in a boat. Each deceased person would have grave goods in there with them when they were buried, because it would show their social standing and it would ensure that they would have passage into the afterlife. Those are the main points of Viking funerals. However, most people ignore the other 3 least known burial types.
What made you want to have a Viking funeral?
At first, honestly, the reason I wanted it was because I saw it happen in a movie and it looked really cool. But as I did more research, it just seemed like a better way to be cremated or buried, in my opinion. I would like to be cremated, though. However, there are several laws against Viking funerals, so to have one done would be very difficult. But the idea that behind the ritual of a Viking funeral is the reason I wanted one done.
And what kind of belongings would people put with the body?
That depends on their social standing. So, a warrior would be buried with his weapons and his riding equipment. A tradesman would be buried with tools. Women would be buried with jewelry and household goods. And slaves wouldn't be buried with anything because of the fear that even though they were buried correctly, they would return to haunt their masters. The chiefs would be buried with, whatever, like crowns or jewels that were significant to their status.